Okay, we're going to have to kind of pass the microphone around, but first, on behalf of the entire SHPOA membership, I want to thank you guys for coming to present to us. This is a first. I think, Tom, you may have addressed the group as a whole before, but we've never had police, fire, and lifeguards all at once. So, we really appreciate you coming up. So, first of all, 2021 has been a pretty interesting year, I think we'll all agree. And your different departments have gone through a number of different changes, so we want to focus on that. So, this is a question for all three of you. Try to give us an understanding of, your department in terms of some of the changes that have happened in 2021, yourselves, how long you've been in your positions, some of the metrics that you might have, the number of service calls that you've had, how are they trending? Are they going up? Are they going down? And just any other key facts about your different groups that might be of interest to us. Okay? So Sandy, we'll start with you. So I'll hand the microphone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The Beach Patrol operates late May through September. We have 70 members on the patrol. That includes the captain and 5 lieutenants. We also have 15 beach taggers with 2 office workers. I've been the captain for 25 years. The past few years have definitely trended upwards. Our calls, the demands on the department, I think we all can tell that there are more people in town. So there definitely are more burdens, probably, I assume, on every public safety department. This year we had 31 rescues, 14 EMS calls, 26 lost children were found, 4 police calls, and 4 kayakers and 2 catamarans were assisted. There were approximately 100 incidents that were resolved without any escalation on the beach, any little conflicts or anything like that, the beach tags or unruly beachgoers. Our department is primarily, we are preventative. By nature, our best day is when we have no rescues. That's our goal, is to say nothing happened. So whenever there's a whistle, it may have saved someone. No one will know. We move them out of a rib, we move them away from the jetty, move them in a little bit. And that's my son.
Good, thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Deputy Chief Robert McClure, Fire Department. Been a member of the fire company since 1975. Trying to figure out what we're 73. Still at it. Sorry. Okay, a few people know me that in New Jersey. We grew up on the same street, so somewhere. They live somewhere as well. Born and raised here, went to school here, graduated high school here, got married, and moved off the island. Anyway, get back to the fire company. Our business is just getting busier and busier all the time. I was telling Jack a few minutes ago, just for the month of June, July, and August, we responded to 229 fire incidents. That doesn't include EMS. So we are currently, for the year, for both fire and EMS, we're at 830 calls. We got 4 months to go. We're trying to, like Sandy, we're trying to stay proactive, stay ahead of the game a little bit. Last 2 years have been very challenging with COVID. It's limited to some of the things we can do, but we're trying to hang in there. And we got a great group of guys right now. A lot of young guys are coming up. We're trying to manage and teach them the way we want things done versus the way sometimes they're taught in fire school. But our EMS is the most important part. That's what most calls we run. Just to give you an example, so far for the year, EMS calls are at 489 calls. It's keeps us pretty busy. Fire calls are at 341 for the year, versus last year we were 273 for the fire calls and 392 for EMS calls. The year prior to that, we were at 420 and 248. It's bounced back and forth a little bit, but it just keeps creeping up. Response time is now, most of you know, we have some paid guys and we work 3 paid guys per shift. And they get out a lot. The response time is a lot quicker. Our volunteers, the majority of them have to come on much, and it takes a few minutes when we get here, especially in the summertime. Especially the last couple of weeks with the construction going on the boulevard. Really slows us down getting in here. So, with that, I'll pass it on to Tom, and then he can give a little bit of an update.
Thanks, Bob.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Schutta.
Mike.
Sorry.
There you go.
It's a little forward. Again, my name is Tom Schutta. I'm the Chief of Police here. At the end of the year, it's my 27th year. I'd like to thank everyone for having me here. 2018 was the last time I was here, and based on that performance, I was actually surprised that I got the I tried to pick it up a little bit, and hopefully conclude with the sleep today. So our department is 17 full-time police officers, 2 civilians. We handle our call trend is definitely on the rise as well. Generally, we do about 16,000 to 18,000 incidents a year. That's not all calls for service. Some of it's documentation of various things throughout the borough, but we are definitely trending up. Forgive me as I kind of stutter here. I'm not really much of a public speaker, so in front of all you guys, it is a bit intimidating. I'd rather stand up against someone who's 6'5" and have to wrestle to the ground and talk to you guys like this. But our trend is definitely on the rise. We're a service-oriented department. We go to every call. Whenever you call that John emergency number, and of course the 911, we'll go. And we will come back multiple times if need be, whether it's to screw a light bulb or unscrew a light bulb. We go. That's what we're all about. Thankfully, this is a beautiful town. And, in terms of crime, we're very fortunate. So that's why we can have that luxury of being very, very service. Other than that, I can't think of anything else in terms of introduction. I'd like to pass this mic off to someone.
Appreciate you. Hey, Tom, I'm going to get it back. Okay, let's start off with some individual questions, and we'll start off with you, Sandy. So every year you've got some lifeguards leave, and you need to bring some new lifeguards in. So tell us a little bit about the test that new lifeguards go through, and then once they are hired, what's the training program that they have to go through to become a lifeguard in Stone Harbor?
Each year we lose probably an average of 20% of the guards that move on, and then we have to replace higher training. It's usually around 20%, I would say. The tryout is held over Memorial Day weekend. It consists of a half-mile ocean swim in a May ocean, which is frigid. And then we have a 1 mile run, and the slowest you can run a mile is 7 minutes. Both events are the competition, but that's the minimum standard. And all guards, in addition to that, they must be qualified annually. They have to run a 7-minute mile, and they have to do a 500-meter ocean swim in 10 minutes or less. So the standards they're actually state standards. After the tryout, people think the tryout is difficult, but it's really just a gauge to see if we think that the applicants can succeed in both the training. It's much more difficult. It's a 2-week period. It's all day. It's everything from flag swims to running 3, 4, 5 miles at a time, CPR, rowing training, rescue procedures, everything that they need to know. One of the things the reasons we do this is because it's for the guards' own safety. We have to make sure that they're capable. They have to go out in a rescue in the Northeastern and they get pulled out. that not only can they save the victim, but that they're able to take care of themselves. So, and it also demonstrates a commitment to doing the job. The goals of the people ask, why is the training so difficult? And we try to obviously teach them the types of training we're looking for, running and swimming, basic things that we deal with. A fit lifeguard is really the best piece of equipment we have. So they're improving their fitness. They are, and then we try to achieve a balance of confidence and humility, because when you're out there over and over and you're cold and your legs are tired and you're really fatigued and you're not sure you can do it, you start to understand that even though you're a 20-year-old young, strong person, that you have limits, and you now will, this translates into understanding with your lifeguarding people that no one's invincible, even you aren't. So it all plays into how we lifeguard, the way we view the public and the ocean. And that's it.
Sandy, this one's for you too. So over this past summer, we saw kind of two tragic accidents with lifeguards in New Jersey. The first was in Cape May, where a lifeguard was killed while operating a rescue boat. The second was up in South Seaside Park, where a lifeguard was struck by lightning and killed. So, can you give us your perspective on what happened there, and then are you contemplating any changes to policies, procedures for our Stone Harbor lifeguards as a result of those accidents?
The two tragic accidents this year, they brought the risks associated with being an ocean lifeguard to the general public. I can tell you that these concerns are not new within our department. We are always thinking about the safety of the guards as well as the public. Lightning, we have had a very aggressive policy in place for decades. We monitor the radar constantly, any day that there is a chance of any storms. And we have a policy where if the radar, if it is within a dangerous distance, we radio the guards. You've probably all seen this. They pull the bathers, and they notify the people on the beach. We send out vehicles to support them and tell people to leave the beach because there's approaching electrical storm. And then we will have the guards seek shelter, because I'm concerned about, we want all of this done. We want the people out of the water, off the beach, and the guards in their cars or in the headquarters where they can continue to see the beach and the water, but at a safe location. We are considering possibly the introduction of a lightning testing system, a lightning sensing system, I should say. They have these devices now. I wouldn't want to rely 100% on it, but we just think that, and there has been some discussion, I've heard about it in the lifeguard stands. We've had discussions within the borough about it, and everyone, we're looking into if that's a risk. We did research this 4 years ago before we purchased the stands, and it's well established that metal does not attract lightning. It doesn't really have anything to do with where it strikes. A few years ago, a wooden lifeguard stand was destroyed in Cape May from lightning, and a lifeboat in Avalon on the beach was hit, and they're made out of fiberglass. So that's something we're looking at. Our approach is the only safe way to handle this is we don't want anybody down there in the lightning. Okay? And we do catch a lot of grief from some people on the beach. They don't want to leave. Everyone has a phone. They're looking at their own radar. They're looking up at the headquarters. What are these guys thinking? But we always ask for everyone's cooperation. There'll always be some will come out again. Okay. As far as the lifeboats, I've been rowing those boats for 38 years, and I don't know of any other serious injury with a lifeboat, other than bumps or bruises or things like that. We are looking at possibly wearing helmets. That's something we can review this winter. They're a very useful piece of equipment. People think that they're obsolete. They play an important place. We have a variety of pieces of equipment we use depending on the situation. We have rescue cans, the red things that the lifeguards run around. You have a rescue that's close to shore where you can't use any kind of a vessel. That's our choice. We have paddle boats. You can go out a little further with them. They're a little faster than swimming. We have wave runners. They have advantages. They're fast, but they're very heavy, and they do need to be maintained. And then we have lifeboats. The lifeboats, they don't break down. They last 10 to 20 years. Their purpose is cold water rescues, rescues offshore, multiple victim rescues. You can perform CPR with a lifeboat. I've had to do things like that where a board or a wave runner won't be as effective. Wave runners are better for something that you have to go a long distance fast. They have drawbacks as well. You know, all the equipment has a plus and a minus side to it. Wave runners, they don't last as long. They weigh 3 times as much as a lifeboat. So we say, oh, this lifeboat injured this young lifeguard. Imagine if it was a wave runner. And we've gone back through our statistics and found that we haven't had any serious injuries with lifeboats. We've actually had more serious injuries with wave runners and paddle boats. Concussions. We've had 2 people seriously injured moving a wave runner or just riding it, not even riding it aggressively. So basically, we need all these different pieces of equipment. They all play a role. We spend a lot of time training the guards and, you know, learning judgment with when you can use them, when you don't want to move the boats out. Every lifeguard on patrol does a 5-mile run. Every single lifeguard will police that, and they're pretty proud of it. And we're constantly working with people to make sure they understand the boats. They are potentially dangerous. There are the risks with the job, and I think the public is now aware of that. But we put a lot of thought into the safety of the lifeguards as well as the public.
Thank you. Okay, one more question for you. It has to do with the lifeguard headquarters. So demolition started on Thursday, and but tell us a little bit about the old lifeguard headquarters. I know it was in some serious disrepair, so let us know how old it was, what some of the issues are, and then if you could touch upon the schedule for the new headquarters that will be. The old headquarters was built in 1962, I believe. There was some remodeling done in 1991. Right, so the last significant improvements were 30 years ago. When the building was constructed in 62, the beach patrol was about half the size of what it is now. There were not female lifeguards. There were not beach divers. I believe that started in about 1970, 71. There were a number of problems with the building, other than it not having enough storage or space even to operate with that many people. We would have sewage backhoes downstairs at least once a summer for the last few years. Public Works was constantly trying to correct this problem. It was really unsanitary. Structurally, the building the beams are sagging in the building. The deck is very old and need to be replaced. The windows don't work. We have significant electrical problems. Half of the outlets in the building don't work. There is one toilet for roughly 50 of the male lifeguards and one toilet for 13. We have 13 female lifeguards.
There are just a lot of issues with, we have to keep things outside. A lot of the equipment is expensive. It sits outside a lot in the winter. Beach taggers, they work out of a very small, hot garage. They eat their lunch on a 60-year-old garage. So in order to fix it, there's really nothing that you wouldn't replace. That's really what everyone that has looked at it, that has gone by there, I always welcome people to come and take a look around. There are also serious mold issues. Plumbing was leaking. So if you were to replace it, you basically end up replacing the whole building. So we're looking forward to the new facility, and we really appreciate your support with this. We're really excited to. I think it can help us with our response, with our training, with our organization. We really appreciate that. We're looking forward to it.
Thanks, Sandy. Tom, you're back up. So, we've heard quite a bit about the problems with teenagers, probably more so in Avalon than in Stone Harbor, but a lot of issues this past summer with all sorts of disruptive behavior there. So, and I think many people think that it's a result of a new state law that went into effect this past year. So I was hoping that you could kind of tell us what that new state law is and then how that's impacted, how you provide the law enforcement in Stone Harbor.
So Avalon did have obviously some issues where they ended up shutting down the boardwalk on the beach. We did, once they did that, we did have a slight influx of juveniles to our area. However, it was manageable. From my understanding, Avalon had some criminal mischief, damage to property, things of that nature. We didn't really quite experience the same thing they experienced. We had our officers monitor the beach when they would congregate at the beach. I mean, they're kids. They have to go somewhere, right? So we would just monitor to make sure they weren't damaging anything. Kind of like herding cats. We would push them along, from spot to spot to spot. And for the most part, everything was fine. I know a lot of attention is given to the new law that went into effect February of this past year regarding alcohol and marijuana. That does have an effect with things, but in my estimation, people forget about the juvenile reform that occurred slightly before that in December. And basically, juvenile reform from the Attorney General, our marching orders are basically, leave the kids alone. That reform basically breaks down to what they call curbside warning, station house adjustment, and formal charges. Curbside warning is, wasn't born in the 50s, but I can imagine this is what it was like. You'd see a group of juveniles, doing something mischievous, maybe even fighting, and what we were told was, right from the Attorney General's offices, the police would roll up, roll down the window, look out the window and say, "Hey kid, beat it." And that would be it. Whereas in the past, we would get out of the car, go talk to everyone, depending on the incident, take names, contact moms and dads, either have them come to the station or come to the location of where the incident was. Anymore, that's not the case. We really, we've been, excuse the pun, kind of been handcuffed with our response with juveniles, where it really is, we're herding cats, we're just pushing, kids along from space to space, as long as it's not, something completely egregious. But again, in the past, we would get out and take names and things of that nature. It's difficult, to be honest with you, because when the public is used to a certain response, and the police, doing this business 27 years now, a certain way of doing things, and now they're drastic change such as this, it's definitely difficult. So, I don't really think, Avalon's issues transferred down here as much. I don't know why. I'm thankful that they didn't. But in the event that you do see, anything now, if you see something, say something. Call the police, no matter what you think it is, whether how minor or major it is, and we'll come out. The new marijuana alcohol law, without getting into legalese and getting the weeds about it, basically, in a nutshell, there is no more underage drinking and underage marijuana, or marijuana in general, but specifically for people underage. In the past, prior to February 22, if all three of us are out and we're underage and we have beers or any type of alcohol, we're most likely getting quote-unquote arrested, brought back to the station. Charges are, we're depending upon the incident, or we'd be contacting mom and dad, they'd come to the station and we release, the juvenile to mom and dad. Anymore, there's really no such thing as charges for underage drinking. Our marching orders are basically take the juvenile's information if they give it to us and issue them a warrant. And that's basically it, and send them on their way. Whether or not it would be up actually to the officer's discretion and judgment. Obviously, if the juvenile is incapacitated, whether they can't take care of themselves, they're harming themselves or the public, then we have the ability to bring them back to the station for safety. However, if they just have one beer, we're told to confiscate the beer and get a name if they give it to us and send them on their way. So it's a complete departure from what we're used to. In that respect, just as an example, if Bob is underage and he's on the beach with a cooler of beer, he has an open beer, an actual open beer out, not in a red cup, we'll go up, take the name, they'll give it to us, confiscate the beer, send them on their way. We're not allowed to look in the cooler. So we're basically sending them on their way. They bought a case of beer, 24. They have it one. We're sending them on their way with 23. Only possibly to find them 4 blocks down doing the same thing again. And our marching orders are, they get another warning. Hopefully they give us the same name, a different officer, and we're to send them on their way again. So it's, I think people misconstrue all the juvenile problems with the alcohol and marijuana. It certainly is an issue, that's for sure. But really, in my estimation, the juvenile reform is more of the issue that we're running into because we really don't have as much authority in it. And it's difficult. It's difficult. It makes everyone's life a little more difficult. The public, they see, crowds of juveniles doing whatever they might be doing. If you think it's a problem, we'll go and we're going to roll down and say, hey kid, beat it. Which, it's amazing to me, but that's where we're at. And in that respect, I find more amazing is with curbside warning, as they call it, which is the beating kid approach. We're not to take their name. We are to estimate their age, race, and sex. We just estimate, that's it, and then we have to report that information up to the Attorney General's office. The number of curbside warnings we had every quarter. So, I don't know. Mine is not the reason why. That old saying, we just get our marching orders and do it. I'm not going to completely editorialize, on the governor's law, but it definitely makes it more difficult.
Thanks, Tom. So another question for you. So, we talked about the crowds this summer. I've never seen the town more crowded. There seems to be a major increase in bike traffic as well. Unfortunately, we had a fatality on 87th Street, a bike accident. So, can you tell us, are biking accidents up? And what are some of the things that we can do as bikers, pedestrians, drivers to help mitigate some of the issues that we see?
Yes, so unfortunately, of course, there was that tragedy on 87th Street. And, all of our hearts go out to the family and that neighborhood that were involved in that. There's definitely been an increase in bicycle traffic. you know, it's a blessing and a curse, as I've said before. You know, for years and years, everyone's promoted, don't drive so much, don't drive so much, ride your bike, ride your bike. Well, it happened. There's a lot of bikes out there, which is great, but unintended consequences, you know, that people never really thought of, I guess. And not to say people didn't think of, but, you know, I think generally speaking, and we all know, you know, it's a resort community, and when people come from their homes and they want to enjoy the beach and the surroundings, they're not necessarily thinking of bike laws. You know, they're just here to have a good time. And, you know, their minds off from work and school and whatever else, you know, paying bills at home, and they're here to have a good time. And that's what we want. But we're trying to give gentle reminders to the biking community and motorists as well, you know, to obey the rules of the road. The bikes have to obey the same rules of the road as a car does. And cars just need to creep along. Whenever I drive through town, I just creep because I know, you know, every intersection there's potentially someone walking out to cross the road. And I'm constantly scanning each corner. I mean, it takes a while to get through town sometimes, but at the end of the day, I'd much rather get through town, I'd leave a little earlier and get through town, you know, safely, than, you know, have a tragedy, much like it occurred on 87th Street. You know, we've instituted some things to mitigate the problems that we've had with the volume and traffic, that being motorists, pedestrians, and bicycles. We started, you know, we kind of went old school and put 2 officers out at periodic times of the day at 96th Street, 3rd Avenue to assist with that intersection. You know, hopefully no one had a whistle blown at them this past summer because we gave our officers whistles to try and really, you know, send the point home. You know, Sandy can relate to this, I guess. Nobody wants to have a whistle blown at them. You know what I mean? So we want to just try and provide like a not so subtle reminder of, you know, cross the street, you know, safe. You know, and we've been talking about this all summer, that we understand that pedestrians have the right of way in the crosswalk. We understand. However, at the end of the day, it's about safety, right? So when I was growing up, I was taught, if you're out on the road, you better get across that road as quick as you can, because that car might not see you. It just might not see you. And nowadays with texting and phone calls and things like that, which obviously you're not allowed to do, it of course happens. So we're trying to promote eye contact, pedestrians with the driver in some respect. Because when there's eye contact, there's some form of acknowledgement. And there's those nonverbal communication type things where you're either going to get from that driver, uh-oh, he's not slowing down, or, okay, they're slowing down and it's safe to cross. Just don't blatantly walk out in the crosswalk. You need to try to make eye contact. Yes, you're absolutely right. When you're in that crosswalk, you have the right to right. But at the end of the day, if you get hit or injured, who cares who's right? I mean, when you really break it down, like, who cares who's right? We've been kicking that around all summer about some way to promote the eye contact thing. And they're just reminders. I mean, you know, we're all grown adults here. We've been crossing roads for years and years and years. And there's so many intersections in town, of course, that, you know, there's statistics by the National Highway Traffic Safety Association that every intersection you cross, your danger goes up a little bit because it's an intersection. So obviously we have, you know, more than 40 intersections in town, 80th to 122. There's 42 right there, times, you know, 1st, 2nd, 3rd Avenue. That's a lot of intersections. That's a lot of danger. I just think, you know, we need to be mindful, respectful. There's got to be mutual respect between the motorist and the pedestrian. That, hey, let's not have an incident with anyone. You know what I mean? It's just a mutual respect that I think we kind of start to lose a little bit in summertime, because it's summertime. We're here to relax. You know, this is all a shared responsibility between the public and us. We have to do our job too to enforce what is necessary. Unfortunately, there's only so many of us, and we can't be everywhere all the time. Between seeing violations, you know, that occur and, you know, going call to call. So we do need a little assistance from all of you. which, your organization has been great with the partnership with this, especially since the tragic accident on July 17th. Just to give, subtle reminders to your family and friends, especially your children, that, to me, it doesn't matter how old you are, where you're home. Where you're home. I know it might not look cool, or it might be an inconvenience, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's all about safety, and we want to get you home to whatever state that is in one piece.
Okay, on to fire. So Bob, the major changes in the department this year. So in January, we went from, after many, many years of being a fully volunteer fire department, you brought in 9 full-time firefighters there. So can you tell us the rationale behind going to the full-time firefighters? And I know it's kind of early at this point, but how's it working out with having the combination firefighters, full-timers and volunteers?
Thank you. Yeah, this all started for us about 3 years ago. We realized that we were losing members. Sorry. What's happening in Stone Harbor, obviously, as I'm telling Jack the majority of the residents live here. These are older residents. There are some younger people around. But it's really, really hard to get the young ones, a few young ones around, to want to volunteer. The volunteer thing is not that easy, because to become a volunteer firefighter, you have to attend firefighter 1 class, which is an 180-hour course, which takes about 4 months to get through, and that is a state requirement. We can take a person in that doesn't have the certification yet. We only have 1 year before we get certified. So we've got to send them to school. It's very labor intensive, and it's tough to get these young people to do it. They're busy with sports, other activities, and we go back to about, that was 2000, we had, in 2000, 21 years ago, we had 31 firefighters on the active list. 23 of them lived in Stone Harbor. This year, we have 45 on the active list, 4 live in town. And the majority of the guys that live in town, the minimum age is like 60 years old. So I'm one of those guys that's over the hill, I'm still at it. But it's tough. I don't put air packs on anymore. Leave that up to the young guys. I don't haul the hose anymore. Leave that up to the young guys when we can get them. But anyway, we go back about 3 years ago, we realized we were having a problem. And we started looking around. Roger was really the instigator on this, and really proactive, trying to be proactive. And we started looking around other municipalities that were experiencing the same problems as us. Every seashore community has got the same problems going on around us. I don't care if they're from Cape May to North Jersey, it's all the same thing. So anyway, we were investigating, and we found Princeton, New Jersey was experiencing the same problems. They were starting a new program there with paid firefighters. And they're not just firefighters, they're firefighter EMTs. And that was one of the requirements here. You had to be an EMT as well as a firefighter in order to get one of these positions. So anyway, Roger and Deputy Fire Chief Bailey and I went to Princeton one day, and we talked to the director of the public safety up there who was putting this program together. And we learned what they were doing. Princeton had the exact same problems that we were having, trying to get people. Young guys couldn't live in Princeton, they were living outside the area. The response time was getting longer and longer and longer, and you can't have that, especially on EMS calls. Somebody's having a heart attack, you got to get there, you got to treat them, you got to get them to the hospital as quick as you can. And Josie knows from years of EMS what that's like. It gets to you, after a while. And the life of an EMT, I did it for 4 years, and I'd like to admit it. I stopped doing it about 13 years ago. I was getting ready to turn 60, I had to recertify. I am not recertified at 60 years old. So anyway, you got to keep the young blood in there, and it's a challenge. So anyway, we came up with this program that we presented to the borough. They're going paid. We got 9 paid guys. There was 3 guys per platoon per shift. Now, their shifts run, they work 48 hours on, 96 hours off. So when they're in the station, they're there for 2 solid days. They don't go home. They sleep in the station, they eat in the station, do everything in the station. So we were lucky that we had enough guys already in the fire company that wanted to do this. And we were able, and there is some code in the state regulations that says if you do this, you have to pull from within your current department first, before you go outside. I know there was some speculation of why didn't they put it out there. Well, because we had enough guys to do it for the guys that were in-house. Out of the 9 guys, we only had 1 who was not EMT certified. In the beginning, he got his certification before the beginning of 2021, so we were good to go. And in January, the 9 guys got sworn in, and they started their shifts. So far, knock on wood, it's working out great. As I told you a few minutes ago, our call volume is up. 229 fire responses just for June, July, and August. Just to give you a little example how things go. Again, I was telling Jack earlier, back in 1979, I was assistant chief back then. We did our end of the year stats. We had 46 fire calls for the year, 14 mutual aid calls. That was for the entire year. This year we did 229 in 3 months. So you can see the drastic change in the amount of calls, and it's all due to, again, COVID. There's more people staying here, and a lot of things I think contributors to. The Reeds has made a big difference in the amount of people sticking around Stone Harbor in the fall and in the winter. The movie theater has helped. 96th Street Bar and Grill has helped. All these businesses that are open year-round are drawing more people in town, and most of the store owners that aren't really will tell you that it's also helping them. You can come into town on a weekend, as most of you know. There's very few empty parking spaces on 96th Street. And I was shocked one Thursday night last winter, but as a matter of fact, it was in February Thursday night. I was coming back to the firehouse for a drill. I came in town at 6:30. And then 200 block of 96th Street, there was not one empty parking spot on a Thursday night in February. I couldn't believe it. Never seen that. That's all that before my life. Used to be years ago, and later they came, they rolled up the sidewalks and everybody went home. That was it. But that's not the way anymore. And we have to have the coverage in order to take care of the people that need it when they need it. As we said, we have a lot of older senior citizens, require more trips to the hospital. We have one fellow down on 109th Street that has a real hard time getting around. His wife can't pick him up. They're constantly down there. Letting assistants get him in the car, out of the car, in bed, out of bed. But that's what we do. We help out. And, we don't, the guys don't mind doing it. They're really doing it. People have been great. And so far, like I said, it's working out very well. I don't think there doesn't seem to be any animosity between the guys that are getting paid and the guys that are still volunteering. We're all in it together, and basically the paid guys are only there to substitute and help out, still take volunteer work. We're still a volunteer department, we just have some paid people. And it's worked out great as far as the response times. Getting to these calls, to help people out. As Tom was saying, and I agree with sometimes we stand outside the firehouse and we watch the people go through the intersection here, 96 and 2nd. It's scary. The walkers, bikers, joggers. I just had a girl this morning when I was coming here, was jogging across 3rd and 2nd Avenue there by the firehouse, and she went against the red light, car coming up 2nd Avenue, had to slam the brakes on people on the road. We see it all the time here at daylight savage. Education, education, education. Good.
Thanks, Bob. So I actually had a few more questions, but we were running out of time. But I want to thank you for, on behalf of the entire membership for attending this meeting. Great information. It's really been informative and valuable to the membership there. So, and you may not want to hear this, but you're definitely coming back. So please.